This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Vayeitzey, Parshas Vayeitzey. Just want to begin. We have Baruch Hashem good news. Baruch Hashem, Hoidul Hashem Kitov. We were blessed with a baby boy this week. Thank you. So Mitzvah Hashem, we're making a bris Wednesday morning in Kahal Torah SMS. Davening is 7:15. The bris will be 8 o'clock. I'll be very grateful. Whoever could attend, be very happy to see you. Everybody is formally informed.
What is the address for
78-15 Parsons Boulevard.
The only shul there.
Yeah. Okay, we begin Parshas Vayeitzey. Parshas Vayeitzey. So the pasuk is telling us about Yaakov Avinu is leaving Beersheva and he's going to Haran, and of course he's running away from Esav. He's running away from Esav. Esav is after him. Esav is going to kill him. And the pasuk says like this: Yaakov got a little tired. Vayifka b'makom vayolen sham. He lodged there. Kivah hashemesh. Vayishkav b'makom hahu. He slept in that place. So Rashi's bothered. He slept in that place. Shkoyach. Wherever you sleep, it's in that place. Right? Whatever you do, it's in that place. It can't be. You can't do something in a different place. What does it mean? Vayishkav b'makom hahu. Shkoyach. Says Rashi, lashon miyot. The pasuk is being mamayit something. It's excluding something. He slept in that place. The 14 years that he served doesn't say shalamad. It's not enough to learn, Rabbi. It's not enough to learn. Someone who just learns, he's only doing half the job. Sheshimesh. You have to be associated with Talmidei Chachamim. Sheshimesh b'veis ever lo shachav b'layla. He didn't sleep. He was learning Torah. That's an amazing thing. 14 years, Yaakov Avinu does not sleep. Now what does that mean? 14 years he doesn't sleep? It's not humanly possible not to sleep. It means he didn't put his head down. He didn't lie down at night. To say he physically did not sleep for 14 years, that's l'malam minateva. But he didn't go lie down to go to sleep. You know, he was sitting, maybe he dozed off a little bit, but now after 14 years, finally, he goes to sleep. I have one simple question for you. If you were to ask, what were the most important years of the life of Yaakov Avinu? The 14 years that he was sitting and learning. No question. Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam. If you had to write something, on Yaakov Avinu's Matseva, what was the greatest accomplishment of his life? That he learned uninterrupted 14 years. How many words does the Torah tell us about that? 0. The Torah does not mention one word about the learning of Yaakov Avinu. You know what it says? He slept in that place. But for the 4th, we could figure out based on inference. He slept there, but the 14 years he was in Yeshiva Shem Be'ever, he didn't sleep. Well, the Torah's hiding it. We're embarrassed. The Torah's embarrassed to say Yaakov Avinu learned for 14 years. I mean, why wouldn't the Torah say it outright? Why wouldn't the Torah say explicitly, Yaakov Avinu learned 14 years? And it's almost like, imagine like this. You have a big Talmud Chacham who never battles for a moment. So you're writing the art school biography, and in the paragraph about Torah study it says, and when he was 73 years old, he was mavatel from his learning. You want to say a nice word about the guy, please? You want to say, talk about a good thing that he did. No, the Torah doesn't say a good thing he did. The Torah says, he went to sleep. Cut him a break. Yaakov Avinu just learned for 14 years. You want to give him a compliment before you criticize it? Tonight he went. By the way, we have a whole shiur, why did Yaakov go to sleep? If he learned uninterrupted for 14 years, so why didn't he stay up that night? I mean, if he was doing it for 14 years, so why couldn't he do it one more night? But almost it seems like the Torah is hiding the fact that Yaakov Avinu learned for 14 years. You'll see more. Look at number 2. The Torah at the end of Parshas Chayei Sarah tells us about the lifetime of Yishmael. So Rashi asks, who cares how long Yishmael lived? But the Torah is the Guinness Book of World Records. We need to know exactly how long Yishmael lived. Lama nimnu shnoisav shel Yishmael. Why are the years of Yishmael counted? Kedei liyaches bahen shnoisav shel Yaakov. In order to be able to figure out how many years Yaakov lived. Mishnoisav shel Yishmael. If you calculate the years of how long Yishmael lived, Lamadnu, we learn, Sheshimesh Yaakov beveis Ever Arba Esrei Shana. That Yaakov Avinu learns for 14 years. You hear what's going on here? We have a question. Why do we need to know how long Yishmael lived? It's pointless. It's useless information. Answer: from the fact that we know Yishmael lived a certain amount of years, we could figure out how long Yaakov Avinu learned in Yeshiva Shem Ve'ever. So in other words, the Torah is giving me this seemingly useless information for me to glean that Yaakov learned for 14 years. So just say straight out, Yaakov learned for 14 years. It's almost, the Torah says, Yishmael lived this and this amount of time. We don't need to know that information. So why are you writing it? So I could figure out, through making all kinds of mathematical equations, that Yaakov learned for 14 years. Why is this so top secret? It's almost like, no, nobody says, you can't talk about that. That's like, you're not to say, you're not to mention. We don't want to say, Chas Hashem, Yaakov learned. So what do we say? Vayishkav b'makom hahu. He slept there, but he didn't sleep somewhere else. We say Yishmael lived this amount of time. From there we could figure out Yaakov Avinu learned for 14 years. What's the big secret? I mean, we should be proud of this. We should be proud of this. Rashi in last week's Parsha says another thing. Listen to this. Look at number 3. Hare chaserim yedalid shanim. From the life of Yaakov Avinu, we're missing 14 years. Halamadata, we learn from here, she'achar shekibel habrachos, that after Yaakov got the brachos from Yitzchak, nitzman. Now this is the first time Rashi uses the word nitzman. In this week's Parsha, Rashi says shimesh beveis Ever. Parshas Chayesara, Rashi says shimesh beveis Ever. In Parshas Toldos, Rashi says nitzman beveis Ever yadalit shanim. You know what nitman means? He was hiding. Who's he hiding from? Esav. I have one simple question to ask. Imagine for a moment you were Esav. And you're thinking, where's Yaakov Avinu? Where could he be? Let me check the pool hall. So Esav's going and checking the pool. He's not here tonight. Let me check the bowling alleys. He's not. Let me check the movies. Where could he be? He's not in his usual spots. I wonder where Yaakov could be. And Yaakov's sitting there in the base medrash. I really tricked him. What? Yaakov is tam, Yoshev Ahalim. What kind of bad hiding place is it, right? A kid wants to hide from his mother. So where does he hide? Next to the cookie jar. The mother's going to hide him right. I mean, Yaakov in his whole life, where is he? He's Yoshev Ahalim. Base medrash shel Shem, base medrash shel Ever. That's where he spent his whole life. Where is he hiding? In the base medrash. How dumb could Esav be that he didn't look for him there? And what was Yaakov thinking? Why would Yaakov hide there? What kind of hiding place is that?
He's protected by learning.
Okay, so if Rashi would have said that he's coming under the spiritual protection, but Rashi says he's hiding. So what, he's like under the floor in the base medrash, the Rebbe's giving shiur, and Esav's like, where's Yaakov? And Yaakov's under the floor, he's laughing, he'll never find me. What kind of hiding place is this? You ever think about that? What's Yaakov doing hiding in the base medrash? That's a bad hiding place. So these are questions that are raised by Rav Simcha Mordechai Ziskin Broida, who is the Rosh Hashiva of Hebron. Rosh Hashiva Hebron Knesset Yisrael. He wrote a sefer on the Torah called Sam Derech. And I'm telling you, the shiur today, the information is mind-blowing. Mamish mind-blowing. Look at number 4. When we think about this, Ein ze ela pela nelam. It's a wonder. Ezu hatmanahi. What kind of hiding place is it? V'yeshivasei shel Ever. Shahaisa makam yadua u'mafursam shalamdu by Torah rabbis b'shanim talmidim rabbim. I mean, it's not like some yeshiva, yeshiva Minchas Pinchas. Nobody ever heard of it. It's the yeshiva, Where could he be learning? Well, what were the choices exactly? There weren't that many choices, of yeshivas. It wasn't like Chaim Berlin, Tarvadas, Chavos. They didn't have too many choices. There's one yeshiva, Shem Ever. That's where Yaakov spent his whole life. Api ha'igoin hamakam arishin shayesat tzarech chabes bazer or Yoshev Haolam. V'imkein keitzad kara hanes hagadol. How did this miracle happen? Shebemeshech yadalid shanim, that for 14 years, hitzliach Yaakov lehistater sham mibli shenoida al kach le'esav. How was Yaakov able to hide in the base medrash for 14 years without Esav knowing? And number 2, why doesn't the Torah tell us explicitly that Yaakov was hiding in the Beis Medrash of Shem Le'ever. Why do we have to figure out, where was he? He must have been in the Beis Medrash. Every kid needs to know that the Zayda Yaakov Avinu spent 14 years of life with uninterrupted Torah study. V'gam yesh lahavin madua lo sipra haTorah b'mafurash sheYaakov Avinu halach liyeshiva shel Ever v'nidman sham. Okay. Parshas Vayeitzey enjoys a very interesting feature. And what is that? That is, it's a Parsha Susuma. That means there's no space between the end of Taldos and the beginning of Vayeitzey. Right? It's closed up. Zzz, right? There's no space.
9 otiyot.
What?
9 otiyot. That's been
It's Tuma. It's not
Tuma.
like it's also Vayechi. Vayechi is really
it's 9 otiyot.
nothing there.
In other words, like this.
Parsha.
In other words, what does that mean? It's Susuma. Susuma means that, let's say, Parshas Vayechi is Susuma Lagamri. There's no space at all. It's like the next word.
Yeah.
Here, it's just another inyan, but it doesn't skip to the next line. It doesn't skip to the next line. Okay. Why? Says Adasakanim, says Taisus. Lefikach Parsha, look at number 5, very important. Lefikach Parsha zu Susuma. You know why this Parsha is sealed up? Mibnei Sheyatza B'tzina. Because Yaakov was hiding. Mipnei Esav, because of Esav. In other words, the Parsha is closed because Yaakov was hiding. What does that mean exactly? Why does Yaakov's hiding affect whether there's a space or there's no space? Very nice, Yaakov was hiding. Yaakov was in secret. But what does it have to do with the fact that there's no opening between the end of Taldos and the beginning of Vayeitzey? In fact, the Baal HaTurim says, Yeshoimrim sheParshas is Susuma. Some say that this Parsha is sealed up. Vehatam, lefi sheyatza b'seiser, Yaakov left secretly, ubarach vehechavei, and he ran away in hiding. I mean, that's beautiful. That's wonderful news. Yaakov went away hiding. What does that have to do with the fact that there's no opening between the end of Taldos and the beginning of Vayeitzey? Rabbi say, we have a very similar feature by Vayechi. Let's talk about Vayechi. We know Vayechi is Sasum Lagamri. Vayechi begins the next word. There's no space at all between the last word of Vayigash and the beginning of Vayechi. It's completely, you wouldn't know if you never went to yeshiva, you would have no idea by looking at the Sefer Torah that Vayechi and Vayigash are two separate parashiyos. Why? Says Rashi. Look at number 8. Lama Parshas Susuma, Lefi Shekivan Shenifter Yaakov Avinu. Once Yaakov was passed away, Nistamu Eineim B'Liban Shel Yisrael. The eyes and hearts of Klal Yisrael were stuffed up, were sealed. Mitzaras Hashibud. Davar Acher, Shabikesh Legalos Seceret. Yaakov Avinu wanted to hide the end. Yaakov Avinu knew when the end was coming. V'nistam Yimenu, and it was healed. It was sealed up. So either, why is Vayechi sealed up? Either because the hearts and minds of Klal Yisrael became sealed up because of the Shibud. And number 2, Yaakov wanted to reveal the end, and it was hidden from him. Let's think about Rashi's first pshat. Why, Rabbi say? Why is Vayechi sealed up? Because the Shibud began. We know the Shibud began. Of course the Shibud began. It says it in the Chumash outright. Klal Yisrael went down to Mitzrayim, and the Mitzrayim started to enslave us. What exactly is the meaning of the fact that between Vayigash and Vayechi, there's no opening? What does that do? What does the opening do?
Why can't that be a vehicle that the Torah uses to say, there's something
it's a remez. It's a remez. It's a hint. Okay, well, we want to try to explain that a little bit on a profound level. But exactly what does this mean? That because the Shibud started, therefore the parashiyos are closed up. Okay, now Rabbi say, fasten your seatbelts. Okay, listen to the following question. If you never thought of this question before, then you weren't thinking when you learned this Rashi. The Rashi at the end of Nayach. Okay, we'll see who comes up with the question. Rashi at the end of Nayach says like this: Vayamos Terach b'Charan. Terach died in Charan. So Rashi is bothered by a question. What do you mean Terach died? He didn't die yet. Terach is not going to die for another 70 years. More than 60 years. Says Rashi, you know what it means? Vayamas Terach b'Charan. Le'achar sheyatza Avram meCharan. He didn't die yet. After Avram left Charan. Ubal Eretz Canaan. V'hayasham Yosem Mishishim Shana. after Yaakov leaves, and he goes, and he leaves Haran, and he comes to Eretz Yisrael, and he's there for 60 years, then Terach dies. How do I know Terach didn't die yet? Because we know Avram was 75 when he left Haran. And we know Terach was 70 when Avram was born. So if Terach was 70 when Avram was born, and Avram was 75 when he left Haran, how old is Terach when Avraham leaves Haran?
145.
145. How old is Terach when he dies? 205.
60.
So wait a second. If Terach is now 145, and he doesn't die to 205, how could the Torah say Terach died? The answer is because he didn't die yet. When it says he died, it means he's going to die in another 60 years. Okay. If Terach is not going to die for another 60 years, so why does the Torah say he died? So why would the Torah write that Terach already died if he didn't die until 60 years later? Because we don't want people to know that he died. Because we don't want word to get out that Terach didn't die yet. Because people are going to say, "This, what kind of son is Avram Avinu? He forsakes his old father and he leaves to Eretz Yisrael?" So the Torah therefore writes, Terach died. So therefore people should think, you know why Avram left? Because his father died already. So why wouldn't the Torah say the truth, that Terach didn't die till 60 years later? This way nobody knows that Terach didn't die yet. People will think he died 60 years earlier. So it's not widespread. The Yoimru and people will say, like Kiyem Avram es Kibud Aviv. That people are going to say, Avram didn't honor his father. Shehinicha Izakein. That he left him an old man. V'halach lai. Lefikach kari hakasames. So how could the Torah write something which is sheker? After all, Terach didn't die yet. The answer is Terach was a Rasha, and since Terach was a Rasha, so he's dead anyway. He was dead the moment he was born. Risham afilu b'chayim kruyim mesim.
Why is that different from where, I don't know, it's like a hafil, but it says Avram died, but we know that he, in the narrative, even though we switched the narrative from Avram to Yitzchak to Yaakov and Esau, we know that Avram lived longer than the narrative. He was alive when Yaakov and Esau were, in other words, he died when they were making, his death was the day they were making cards, right?
Anyone have any questions on this? On this?
Yeah.
But a person can always do tshuva.
Well, what would
So
he
why
die?
why are you killing him right away?
Who's not going to know? Who's going to know?
That's what the question
So what about if the Torah was saying that he died after 60?
Who are we talking about? I have a very simple question. Imagine the people who are alive in the times of Terach. So what kind of newspaper did they have back then? You know, the prehistoric times, right? So they're opening up their prehistoric times, you know, with the hieroglyphics. What?
The obituary?
Yeah, the obituaries. And they're saying, hey, remember that nice little kid who used to live next door? Abraham. Remember Abraham? The kid, he broke all his father's idols. Where did he go? What happened to him? He goes, he claims God told him to go to Israel, to Eretz Yisrael. So, but he left his father? He left his father? So the people are going to say, his father? No, he didn't leave his father. His father died. You say, how do you know the father died? Because the Torah says so. What are you talking about? There is no Torah. I just told Terach yesterday. Terach is walking in the streets. Then they get knocked on the door. Terach walks in. Right? So he said, why did your kid leave you? No, don't talk about him. I died already, he said. I died. Oh, you died? Yeah, the Torah says so. So they bring what? They bring the stone Chumash. And they say, look, it says Terach died. Okay, we won't talk to you anymore because the Torah says you're dead? What's Rashi talking about? What's Rashi saying? Rashi, why did the Torah write Terach died? So people shouldn't think Avram left his father. As if people are getting their news from the Chumash. I mean, Terach's walking the streets. Terach is open for business, right? He had an idol store. So when people came into the store, they didn't pay him anymore? So we don't pay dead people. Right? Where did people get their news from? There was no Chumash. So Rashi's saying, you know why the Torah says that Terach died? The Torah says he died, so people shouldn't think Yaakov left his father. That is very odd. Very odd. Nobody, there is no Torah back then. There is no Chumash. Nobody's reading it. Nobody knows about it. So somehow, because, what's Rashi saying? So Rashi's saying, us, Hashem doesn't want us to criticize Avraham. We know what Rashi says. Why would we criticize? Who is this talking to? What's going on over here? This is one of the most mysterious Rashis in all of Chumash. Show anybody this Rashi. We all heard this Rashi, but if you stop and think for a moment, it's not Oila Ladas. What's Rashi talking about? What's Rashi saying? The Torah wrote he died, so people shouldn't think Avram left his father. His father's walking the streets. I'll tell you another example of this. Look at number 12. Where in the Torah does it say Rivka Yimenu passed away? Doesn't. No. Nowhere in the Chumash does it say Rivka Yimenu passed away.
But she lived 133 years.
Really? That's good to know. I didn't know that. 133? What?
I was an encyclopedia. I say so.
Okay. So, but where does it say in the Chumash Rivka died? Nowhere. Rivka had a wet nurse, right? Yeah. What was her name? Devar. So it says the Menekes Rivka died, and then it says Aloin Bachus, 2 mornings. Says Rashi, look at number 12. The Agada Nizbaser Sham Be'evel Sheni. It's alluded to another morning. Shehu Gadlai Al Ima Ishamesa. Yaakov Avinu was told about his mother, that his mother died. The Aloin B'lashon Yevani Avel. The word Aloin in Greek is Avel. Ulafig So now Rashi is bothered. Why wouldn't the Chumash say Rivka died? That sounds like important information to know. Why wouldn't it say in the Chumash Rivka died?
Because Esav.
You know why the Torah doesn't say Rivka died? Because if the Torah would say Rivka died, people are going to curse Rivka. You know what that womb produced an Esav. So the Torah doesn't say it.
So you can ask the same question about Sarah.
1 second. Why?
Sarah, the Torah writes when she died in
Right.
Ishmael.
No, she
Hagar had Ishmael.
Right? Hagar had
She's not his mother.
Right. So just imagine the people sitting.
Which mother?
Imagine the people sitting at the Levaya. Imagine the people sitting at the Levaya of Rivka. And somebody gets up, the rabbi gets up, Rivka,
But
she
she's
produced
dead.
a Yaakov, she produced a Yaakov.
she's
And everyone's saying, yeah, but she produced an Esav. This lady, they're about to curse her. And they say, we don't know that she's dead. Why? Because we were reading in our Chumash and it doesn't say she's dead. Sir, you're at her Levaya. Why aren't you cursing her? Because it says in the stone, it doesn't say in the stone Chumash that he died. Please, Ribbanu Shalaylam. They're sitting there at the Levaya. They read the newspaper, right? They see Yitzchak. He's carrying out the coffin of Rivka. Who is this? My wife. Yeah, that's what you think. But the Torah doesn't say she's dead. So we're not going to curse her because we don't know that she's dead. What's Rashi talking about? You ever think of that? Rashi says the Torah doesn't say that Rivka died so that nobody should know. Somehow, nobody knows that she's dead. They're at the Levaya. They're at the Shloishim. They're at the yard site. They have a yard site Suda for her. But nobody would say a bad word. You know why? Because nobody knows she's dead. Why? Because it's not in the stone Chumash. Well, what's Rashi talking about?
But it doesn't have to be in the Chumash that for this to happen.
It happened.
It happened before the Chumash. Hashem wrote the...
Yeah, but... So what does Rashi mean? The Torah doesn't write it so people shouldn't know. People don't get the news from the Chumash, Rashi. Right? Rashi says like this. Why does the Torah say Terach died so people should think Terach died? Excuse me, nobody's getting the news from the Chumash. What's Rashi saying? A Chiddush. That it used to be that there was no such thing as news. Everything came from the Chumash. First of all, there was no Chumash. Torah wasn't given until hundreds of years later. What's going on? What in the world is going on here? These are Parshas, Rashis, and Chumash that we heard 1,000 times and don't make sense. Sorry. Anybody have any explanation for any of these comments of Rashi? I'll tell you another one. Look, the Gemara says like this. Look at number 15. When I say it doesn't make sense, it means, we're missing something here. We're missing something, right? Look at number 15. Tana Rabbanan. Right? We know in Parshas Bahaloischa, you have the two psukim of Vayhi B'Nsaya Ha'araim, which are injected. You have the upside down nuns.
Nun.
So the real pshat, what's the halachic pshat? Why you have Vayhi B'Nsaya? We paskin that Vayhi B'Nsaya Sefer B'Fnei Atzmai Chatzvu Amudeha Shiva. You have 7 books: Bereshit, Shemais, Vayikra, Bamidbar before Vayhi B'Nsaya after Vayhi B'Nsaya, and Devarim. But there's another opinion. That's the opinion of the Tanakama, the Chachamim, Tanur Rabbanon. Look at number 15. Vayhi B'Nsaya Ha'araim Vayomer Moshe Parsha Zu Asalah HaKadosh Baruch Hu Simnios Melmala Ulamata Loimar She'ein Zamakayma. The Tanakama holds that Vayhi B'Nsaya is injected at that point. Why? Because it doesn't belong there. It's transposed from a different place and it's put at that juncture. The Gemara continues on the bottom. Mantana de Palagale de Reb Shimon Gamliel. The Rebbe, who argues on Rebbe, who says it's a separate sefer of Shimon Gamliel. The Tanya, Reb Shimon Gamliel Omer, Asida Parsha Zu Sheteakar Mikan V'Tichtav V'Makayma. Really, in the future, Vayhi B'Nsaya is going to be removed and put in its right place. V'lama Kasvakan. So what's it doing here? Kedei lahapsik bein paranos rishayna la parana shniya. Because we don't want to have 3 consecutive bad occasions. We want to interrupt between one punishment and a second punishment. What's this talking about?
What does that have to do with our Parsha?
What's this talking about? Take a look. If you look in Parshas Bahaloischa, you have Vayhi B'Nsaya. And in you have in Parak Yud, it talks about Klal Yisrael running away from Har Sinai, and then it talks about the Mesoinanim, and then it talks about the Asafsuf. So you have three bad things that happened. Number 1, we ran away from Har Sinai. The Ramban quotes the Medrash. We ran away from Har Sinai. What happens? What does that mean? That means, when someone's giving a shiur, so when you're up to the second to last Maramakim, you already unfold the sheet and you put it straight. Right? Because when you get up to the last Maramakim, you start handing it back, right? And then, right when it's over, you're at the door. I'm not you, I'm saying in other places, right? So, but Katina, when the bell rings, the kid skedaddles. It's out of here, right? As quickly as possible. So what does that show? That shows they don't want to be there one extra moment. Right? The Ramban says that they were afraid that the longer they're there, 6:10, 6:11, 6:12, 6:13, we're out of here. Who knows? We stay here, we'll be up 6:14, 6:15, 6:16. Who knows? Maybe Hashem will say, don't talk by davening. Who knows what he could possibly. Right? So they were afraid. So anyway. So we have 3 instances here of punishment. We ran away from Har Sinai, we complained by the Mesoinanim, and the Asapsuf. Says the Ramban, look at the words of the Ramban, look at number 16. The Ramban writes, V'hifsik v'kasav es hashniya v'achar kacha. Okay, on the first line of the Ramban, V'ein b'zeh tamoyrech, aval inyan hamedrash hazeh, matzah yosei ba'agada. Shenasu me Har Sinai, they traveled from Har Sinai b'simcha, ketinoi kabarech mi beis hasefer. Amru, they said, Shema yarba v'yiten lanu mitzvahs. V'zeo v'yisu me Har Hashem, shahaya machshavtam lahasiya atzmam misham, they wanted to move away from there. Mibnei shehu Har Hashem. V'zeo paranos rishana. That was the first episode that was bad. The first avera they did was they ran away from Hashem. The second avera they did was what? The Mesoinanim, they complained. The third avera they did was the Asafsaf. So if you were a historian and you were chronicling, you were writing down what the Jewish people were doing at that time, you would have recorded they committed 3 averos back to back to back. But the Torah doesn't write it like that. The Torah interjects 2 psukim by Vayhi B'Nsaya Ha'araim. Why? Says Ramban, V'hifsik, the Torah interrupts it, Shelo yiu shalosh paraniyos smuchei zulazu. That you don't have 3 back to back to back punishments. Because if you would have in the Torah back to back to back, v'nimtzau Muchzakum b'paranios. Had the Torah wrote, we ran away from our Sinai, we were Messianim, we were Asapsuf, 3 bad things in a row, what do you call 3? Chazaka. We never would have been able to climb out of that mess. 3 Averos in a row, no way out. So what does the Torah do? It interrupts Vayhi ben Saya. I have one very simple question. Did they commit 3 Averos in a row?
They did.
Or did they not commit 3?
They did.
So they did it. So they're muchzak. They have a chazaka. They ran from our Sinai. They were Messianim, and they were Asafsaf. So very nice, you're writing it in a way that it didn't happen back to back. I don't care how you write it. How did it happen? Oh, it's like in America. However the newspaper writes it, that's what happened. Ayah has no bearing, right? News has no bearing on the facts. I don't understand what the Ramban is saying. The Ramban is saying they committed 3 Averos in a row, but the Torah won't write it that way, because if the Torah would write it that way, that would make it that they have a chazaka. They have a chazaka. They did it that way.
No, but it's the way how the Torah writing it. That's the mitzvah.
Oh.
That's what the next.
It's also with Avraham the same thing.
Oh.
What is written, that's the mitzvah.
Oh. So what do we see from here? What we see from here is that there's no such thing as reality. What's reality? What you see? No, what you see is just reality playing itself out. But where is reality created? In the Torah. The Torah creates reality. The way something is written in the Torah, that is how it is. I'll explain to you what I mean. We're going to start with the Yalkut Shemaini. The Yalkut Shemaini tells us, but we see from this Ramban, if Klal Yisrael did 3 Averos in a row, that's not a chazaka. The fact that they happen to do 3 or 7 Averos in a row, that's not a chazaka. You know what chazaka is? If the Torah writes, they ran away, and they were Messianim, they were Asapsaf, if it's written in the Torah, if it's recorded in the Torah, that's a chazaka. How do we explain this? It says the Yalkut Shemaini. Everybody knows that even though the Torah was given after how many generations? 26 generations, right? But the Torah existed how many generations before Bria Olam?
974.
974, right? We say every morning about the Torah. The Torah is Davar, Tziva, Le'elef Dar. The Torah was given in the 1000th generation. What do you mean? It was given into Moshe. Moshe is 26. That means the Torah existed 974 generations before Adam. Tat kad doros kodem shenivra ha'olam. Yashav HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God was sitting. The Darash, he was expounding. The Chakar, he was investigating. Ubachan, he was deciphering. The Tziref es kol Torah kula, he was purifying it. Umiyayim shenivra ha'olam ad ois hasha. From the day the world was created until that time. B'chol davar shehu midivrei Torah, every word of the Torah, darshai, v'chaikroi, v'tzarfai, Hashem expounded, purified, b'ramach pa'amim, 248 times, keneged ramach evam shavadam. Now listen to this. V'yachar kach hotziyah mipiv, then he said it, v'kaveh b'Torah. Look at the next line. This is mamish oyam v'noira. B'chol davar v'davar shekava b'Torah. Any word in the Torah, imzaz mimakaymai, if it would move from its place. In other words, if let's say Vayedaber Hashem al Moshe, let's say it would say Vayedaber Hashem li Moshe, Kima, a little bit, Kilkel es kol ha'olam kulai. The world would be destroyed. In other words, if somebody took a Sefer Torah, the original Sefer Torah of Hashem, and moved one letter over, the whole world would cease to exist. The whole world would be destroyed. Why? Because it would throw off the entire creation. We'll explain. I'll give you the following mashal. You have the sun. If the sun was 1 inch closer to planet Earth, what would happen to us?
Fire or freeze?
We would die instantly.
1 inch? 1 inch?
Not instantly.
Not for 1 inch. Do that. Be a lot closer.
What happened if the solar system was off by 0.001%? The gravitational forces would be out of control. Planets would be pulled into outer space. We'd be, sucked into the black hole. Who knows what would happen? We would burn up. We would freeze. If any planet moved one iota, the world would cease to exist. Right? We know there's a perfect equilibrium. Every planet, every star, the sun, the moon is in perfect equilibrium. How did Hashem create the world? How did Hashem create the world? Hashem said, you go here, you go there. No. We're going to see, the Zayar tells us, Parshas Chumash, Istakel ba'iraisa, Hashem looked into the Torah, Ubara Alma, and He created the world. What does that mean? What does that mean? The Nefesh HaChaim writes, Hashem opened up the Torah, which existed before the world was created, and Hashem said the words, Bereshis bara Elokim. Bang! Bang! Not the big bang. The big bang.
Not the big.
The
Big bang.
bang was the wrong word. Yeah? Hashem opened up the Chumash. He said, Bereshis, Rebbe Hashem said, Bereshis bara Elokim. Eis Hashamayim, the heavens came. V'eis haaretz, the aretz came. How did Hashem make the ar? He read the pasuk. Vayomer Elokim yihi ar, vayihi ar. The ar came. Why was the ar haganos? Hashem read the pasuk. Vayar Elokim es ar kitayv. How did Hashem make the rakia? He read the pasuk. Vayomer Elokim yihi rakia. How did Hashem gather the water? Vayomer Elokim yikav hamayim. The Torah are the architectural plans of the world. Whatever's in the Torah is in the world. Whatever's not in the Chumash is not in the world.
Hashem wrote it?
Hashem wrote it, yes. He wrote the architectural plans. Because that's the tool. The tool that God used to create the world is a Torah. How do I know that? Look in the Nefesh HaChaim. Look at number 22. V'lachein ba. Therefore, with it, this is the Nefesh HaChaim Shar Dalet Parak Yud. With it, number 22. Ne'etzlu Hashem yun out v'nivru kol ha'olamis oyonim v'tachtonim. Like it says in Mishlei, va'eya etzloi amoin. The Torah is an amoin. We darshan in Bereshis Rabbah al tikri amoin elo uman. In other words, what tool did God use to create the world? A hammer, a saw, a nail? Torah. Torah is the tool book. So for example, if you're an architect and you're building a building and you leave out the lobby from the architectural plans, guess what you won't have in the building? You won't have a lobby. Whatever is not in the architectural plans is not in the building. If the architect makes the slightest error in the plans, that's not going to be in the building. The plans is what allows for the creation of the building. But the Torah is not just the architectural plans, it's the plans and the tool. Says the Nefesh HaChaim, look in number 22 in the third paragraph. Unbelievable words, he says. The Chadbara Kudshavrichu Alma. When Rebbe Hashem created the world, Istakel ba ba'iraisa, he looked in the Torah, ubara alma, and he created the world. Uba'iraisa isrei alma. And with the Torah he created the world, kamad ukmua, the way it is. Dechsiv va'eya etzloi amoin. Oyiraisa tzoivachas, the Torah cries out, va'eya etzloi amoin, ki bara kudshavrichu alma, da'ad lo yisrei alma, akdimas ayraisa. Before the world was created, the Torah existed. Now look at this. The Chadba Kudshavrichu Mivrei Alma. When Rebbe Hashem wanted to create the world, have a mistakel ba ba'iraisa. He looked at the Torah, b'chol mila umila, at every word, va'avid lekivla umnusa da'alma, and with that he created the tools. Begin the chol milin va'ivadin the chol amin ba'iraisa inon. Anything in the world is in the Torah. In other words, if you want to know where's the table, where did this table come from? On one letter, and when the Sefer Torah, there's one crown with one little hook. Then on that hook somewhere is a. That's the table. If it wasn't on that hook, there would be no table there. Every blade of grass is nirmaz in the Torah. If it wasn't nirmaz in the Torah, it couldn't exist. Now look what he says. Ksiv ba, ba'iraisa ksiv bereshis bara, istakel b'haimila, he looked at those words, ubaras hashemayim. Ksiv ba, it says in the Torah, vayomer lekim yihi ar, istakel b'haimila, he looked at that word, ubaras ha'ar. V'chein b'chol mila umila. Every word, d'chsiv ba ba'iraisa, that says in the Torah, istakel kudshabricha. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Istakel or amar? It's not asara ba'amarot?
Istakel.
So what is asara ba'amarot? So what is asara ba'amarot nivra olam?
It doesn't, so I once saw, it doesn't mean he mamish had to say it. Because it says, Hashem created the world with what letter? Hey.
Hey.
Why the hey?
Hey and you. You is the lam haba.
Why hey? You know why hey? What's the easiest letter to say? Hey. You don't have to move anything. Hey. Hey. Even if you're not a ventriloquist, you could just hey, right? That just shows. How did Hashem create the world? He didn't have to do. He didn't have to do anything. It means it needed a significant process. I don't know what it means. I don't know. The answer is I don't know. I don't know what it means. But istakel b'raisa. Right? Sometimes I give a true answer, right? Vayeitzey.
Who heard it?
Nobody heard him.
Nobody heard it.
Nobody has to hear him.
Why can't you just think about it?
Maybe we don't know exactly what it means Hashem spoke. We don't know what it means. But what the Zohar is saying is, how did Hashem create the world? He used the Chumash to create the world. Rabbi say, so what we see from here is that the Torah is a very powerful tool. Torah is amazingly powerful. What would happen if you were a nuclear chemist or a genetic, right? And you took an atom, or you're a nuclear physicist, you took the atom and you moved the proton just a little bit.
The neutron.
You know what you would have? You'd have the atom bomb, right? The United States of America would be like Japan. What? Well, I just moved it a little bit. If you think by moving the atom you're going to create devastating effects, you should know that's nothing. If you moved an ice of the Torah, all of a sudden, human beings would grow 7 arms, The Torah is the blueprint of creation. If you tamper with the Torah, the world couldn't exist. It's like tampering with the atom. That's why, look in the Gemara Megillah. Targum, look at number 20. Targum Shel Nevi'im. Who says the Targum of Navi? Yonasan ben Uziel Amra. Mipi Chagai Zechariah Malachi. Now Hashem did not want the Targum of Navi to be revealed. When the Targum of Navi was revealed, what happened? Benizdaza Eretz Yisrael Arba Meos Parsa Arba Meos Parsa. There was an earthquake. Eretz Yisrael shook. Why was there an earthquake? Because the Torah that Hashem wants to be hidden, if it doesn't remain hidden, it throws off the whole creation. It's like an atom bomb. So Yonasan ben Uziel shook the world. He tampered with the atom. He tampered with the Torah. So it's like this. Yes, Klal Yisrael sinned. They sinned. They ran away from Har Sinai. 1. Mesainim 2. Asapsuf 3. But the fact that they happened to sin 3 consecutive times does not alter their inherent makeup. But if the Torah would have written in the blueprint of creation, Klal Yisrael sinned, and then sinned, and then sinned, that would have created a reality that Klal Yisrael are sinners. And we'll never be able to pull out of that. So it doesn't matter what we did, it matters what it says in the document. It's an amazing thing. It's mamish.
Rivka didn't die?
So listen to this. Listen to this.
Now you're going to go back.
Now we're going to go back.
Why can't we use Mucha and Mucha by Torah?
Good.
That's part of it. That's part of it. Oh. If you want to know why, when we went down to Mitzrayim and the Shibud began, did our hearts close up? Did our eyes close up? Why did that happen? The reason why is the Torah is not just removing the open spot between Vayigash and Vayechi to tell us, oh, by the way, we had trouble. It says it openly. You should know the Torah, it's like the atoms. It's like the atoms of creation. By sealing up the 2 parashiyos, that creates a reality that our hearts and minds are sealed up. Because the Torah is the blueprint for history. So it's not just the words of the Torah create the world. It's not just Hashem reads the words, Vayehi Ar, and Ar comes. Even the spaces in the Torah, their existence or lack of, creates the reality whether we could see and comprehend or we can't see and comprehend. The fact that Hashem goes like this, zzz, it's like Hashem is fusing our minds closed. Hashem
Just
is fusing
that,
just in that area.
How many times in lifetime it happened?
No, the fact that between Vayigash and Vayechi there's no opening, that's how Hashem created that when we went down to Mitzrayim, our hearts and minds were sealed up. Why did Yaakov Avinu not have the information to give over the end of days? He had it. But when Hashem took the 2 parashiyos and he fused them together, that closed up his mind, that he cannot relay the information of when Mashiach is coming. It's not the Torah is hinting to it. The Torah is creating it. By putting it that way, the Torah is creating it. So let's come to Yaakov Avinu. Let's come to Yaakov Avinu.
What number?
24, I think, is...
I'm explaining number 24.
Isn't it true that the Goyim did the parashiyot?
No, the Goyim made the prakim.
The what?
The prakim. The Goyim made the prakim. Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky writes, if it were up to him, he would be mevatel the prakim. Prakim is from the Christian version of the Bible. Many times the prakim is completely wrong. Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky writes, Yaakov, if it would be up to him, he would abolish the prakim. But the parashiyos and the psuchos and stumos, that's critical. That's Sinai. It says like this. You know why the Torah doesn't say that Yaakov Avinu was learning? Why doesn't the Torah write openly that Yaakov was learning? You know why Esav couldn't find Yaakov?
Because the Torah.
Esav was looking everywhere for him. He looked in the Beis Medrash, he looked on the floor, he looked on the ceiling, he looked in Yaakov's chair. He couldn't see him. He was hidden. Why? Because if the Torah doesn't write Yaakov was learning, then in reality Yaakov cannot be seen learning. That's it. Yeah. Yaakov could not be seen.
Yeah.
He didn't exist. What do you mean? He was there. He was learning. Not that I could see him, not that you could see him. Because if the Torah removes him, if the lobby is not in the architectural plans, the lobby is not in the building. If Yaakov learning is not in the Torah, Esav comes to the Beis Medrash. For 14 years, he checked under the carpet. He's looking over the carpet. He's looking in Yaakov's seat. Yaakov's shuckling away. And Esav, where is Yaakov? Esav probably put a bomb on Yaakov's chair. Nothing. Doesn't affect him. Esav put like a big net and a big cage around Yaakov sitting there. He's learning. Yaakov is not in reality. Whatever is not in the blueprint is not in reality. So why couldn't Yaakov find him? Why couldn't Esav find him? Because the Torah hid Yaakov. How did the Torah hide Yaakov? By not writing that Yaakov was learning. So it's like the Torah goes out of its way. It says, he slept there. By 14 years he didn't sleep. So say he didn't sleep, say he was in the yeshiva. By omitting that Yaakov was learning, it takes him out of the reality. By omitting, by saying, Yishmael lived this amount of years, and from there we could figure out Yaakov was learning. And by not writing it explicitly, Yaakov was not there in reality. How does the Torah do that? It says like this. How is Yaakov allowed to get away? The Torah takes Parshas Toldos, Parshas Vayeitzey, fuses it together. All of a sudden, in Esav's mind, what would have been open to him, what would have been simple to him, is sealed shut. He can't crack the mystery. He has no idea where Yaakov. Why? The fact that the Torah sealed shut the opening, it made it incomprehensible to Esav where in the world Yaakov. Peladik. Listen to this. What is the most important thing in Judaism in terms of what we live for? Olam haba. Olam haba. Mesilas Yesharim says, Yisoid hachasidus v'shoyresh ha'avoda atmima sheyizbarer v'yisamet etzel ha'adam ma'chayvasoi ba'olamai u'lama tzarech sheyasim ma'abatoi magamasoi v'chol asher omal kol yimei chaya v'hu sheha'adam lo nivra ela l'sanig Hashem. What are we created for? Olam haba, olam haba, olam hazeh doim l'prois l'fnei olam haba. Could someone tell me why the most important thing in Judaism is not mentioned in the Chumash? Show me, where does it say anything about olam haba? Gracious Noach, Lecha, Vayerech, Haitzah told us, no place. Shemais, Vayikra.
No place.
There's a remez. It says, I'm going to walk among you. V'hisalachti b'soichechem, shkoyach. Tell me olam haba. The rivers, the Naharai Safar Samoin. Tell me about how geschmack it is. Says Rav Aaron Kotler. Can't say it. You know why? Could you see olam haba? No. Does Hashem want you to know what it looks like? No. Ayin lo yirasa lekim zelasecha. No eye ever saw it. You know why we can't see olam haba? Because it's not in the Chumash. But if it would be in the Chumash, then we'd be walking down the street and we'd be looking up to the Shemai. We'd know exactly what olam haba is. So the Torah had to omit olam haba from the open blueprint, so that it's not in the open reality. In other words, there's two levels of reality. There's revealed reality, there's hidden reality. Whatever's in the revealed Torah is in revealed reality. Whatever's in the hidden, Torah Shabbat Peh. It says in Pirkei Avos, Olam Hazeh Dharma L'Prez L'Fnei Olam Haba. So of course Olam Haba exists, but it doesn't exist to the naked eye. It doesn't exist you can't see it with your physical eye. Why? It's not in the blueprint. Unbelievable. So it's like this.
Excuse me. Why is our top kid to learn and to find these things? If it's supposed to be hidden, we're supposed to be hidden.
What?
Why is our top kid our whole life to learn and learn?
It's a good simon. This is we're coming to an understanding of what exactly the Chumash is and what the Torah Shebechsav is, and what the Torah Shebal Peh is. The Torah Shebechsav is the open reality of the Bria. It's the blueprint for open reality. So in other words, why can't Esav understand where Yaakov is? Where do you think he is? Imagine Esav, where do you think he's checking? The most obvious place. The answer is, if the Torah doesn't say Yaakov was learning, it's not in open reality. You can't see it.
I understand. My question is, why is it our top kid to learn the Torah and find these hidden things? If we're not supposed to see the hidden things.
You're not supposed to see it with your eyes of flesh and blood, but with the Einei HaSeichel, with the eye of your mind, you are supposed to see it. You are supposed to. The same way, what we're learning, we believe is true. We believe there's Olam. We have to know there's Olam Haba, but it doesn't mean we have to see it. So Rabbi said there was a little boy by the name of Abraham. Abraham leaves his father, and you would think word on the street would be, what an ingrate. His father brought him up his whole life. His father paid for his high school. His father sent him to camp and gave him even the money for soda in camp, and now he's leaving his father. So why doesn't anyone have a bad word to say about Avram? Because everyone thinks that Terach died. What do you mean? But he's walking the street. Doesn't matter. If the Torah writes that Terach died, then in the world of reality, it's somehow removed from people's mind that Terach is alive. The reality that Avram left a living person is not understood by people, is missing from people. It's removed from reality. Rivka dies. And everybody should be cursing Rivka, the womb that produced Esav. The answer is nobody realizes she died. What do you mean? They're escorting her to the grave, they're burying her, they're eulogizing her. That somehow, on some level, the reality that Rivka died is removed from mankind's consciousness.
Wow.
I'll give you another example. Look at number 28. Parshas Vayishlach. It talks about camels, right? I'm sure you came here today to learn about camels. So it's a good thing we have something about camels today. It says in Vayishlach Lamed Beis Tezvav. Gemalim Meinikois Uvenehem. The nursing camels and their children. So Rashi is bothered by all the other animals that Yaakov sent to Esav. It talks about the male and the female, By the camels, it says the female and the children. What happened to the male camels? So Rashi says, Umedrish Agada Ubenehem. Doesn't mean they're sons. Banaehem, they're builders. Zachar keneged nekeva. A male, Yaakov sent 30 females and 30 male camels. So why doesn't the Torah say outright that Yaakov sent 30 females and 30 males? Why be merames that the camels, it says they're children, but really it means the husbands. Says Rashi, because camels are very modest, like Pirsamai HaKasav. The Torah didn't want to write explicitly the husbands of the camels, so it says the children of the camels, from which we derive really it means the husbands. So this is, all of a sudden the Torah is becoming a zubuk. By the way, the Torah is saying, I want to tell you interesting tidbit of information about camels. See, this is a Torah HaKadosha. This is not, FYI. By the way, everyone should know camels happen to be very modest. It's an interesting point. The Torah doesn't give you necessarily information about the whales, exactly how they communicate under the... What is it? Why is the Torah being merames that camels are very modest? So says Reb Simcha Broida, Simcha Zisel, it's completely backward. It's not that the Torah is alluding to the fact of this phenomenon of camels. That, by the way, we want everybody to know that camels are modest. The fact that the Torah wrote indirectly that camels have a husband, and they don't write outright that camels have a husband, that creates that the reality of camels are different than any other animal. It's not that the Torah is telling you a scientific fact about camels. Just the other way around. The fact that Torah writes it this way, that created that camels have a different biological makeup, physiological makeup than any other animal. So it's not that the Torah is reporting a fact, the Torah is creating the fact. Very interesting. Very interesting. Another example, we know in Parshas Tazria Mitzayra, first it talks about all the halachos of animals, and then it talks about the halachos of humans, right? In Vayikra, Tzav, Shemini, it talks about the halachos of behemos, and then in Tazria it talks about Tuma V'tara of Adam, Amar Rabbi Simlai, Kashem Sheyitzirase Shal Adam Achar Kol Behema Chai Va'oif V'mais V'reishis. Just like the creation of man came after the creation of all the animals, so too in Sefer Vayikra, the halachos of man come after the halachos of animals. Very interesting, right? We know when Hashem created the world, first He created fish, birds, animals, man. So too when He teaches halacha, first He tells me the halacha of animals and then the halacha of man. Says Reb Simcha Zisol, it's just the opposite of what you think. You know why Hashem first created animals and then man? Because since in Vayikra, the halacha, the Torah of Adam is written, is taught after the Torah of Behema, that creates that the creation of man is after the creation of animals. Just take it one step further. One step further. You ready for this? So far we're learning that the fact that Klal Yisrael did Avera 3 times in a row, that's not a big deal. Why not? That doesn't create the reality. What creates the reality is how the Torah writes it. The fact that the Torah doesn't write explicitly Yaakov was learning makes it, nobody knows Yaakov was learning. The reason why the Torah doesn't write Yaakov was learning is that so nobody should know that Yaakov was learning. The reason why the Torah doesn't write Rivka passed away is this way nobody recognizes Rivka. The fact that Torah writes Terach died is so that the reality is people in their minds they think Terach died. Not only the way something is written, but even the openings and the closings, that affect the reality, right? So we're going to take it one step further. The day of the week that you read a Parsha, that affects the reality of history for that day of the week. For example, Magen Avram brings down that this is for the burning of the Svarim, the Sreifas HaSvarim. Take a look at number 32. Kasav HaTanya.
Which one?
Number 32, the Magen Avram and Simon Tav Kuf Pei says like this: V'isa b'chsavim sharoi l'chol bar Yisrael lifgois al hasreifas haTorah. Every Jew should cry over the burning of the Torah. Shemikayach zeh nimsora haTorah leklipos. When the Torah was burnt, right? We know 40 wagon loads of Svarim were burnt. If I remember correctly, in the year 1248 in France. On Erev Shabbos, Parshas Chukas. So a Jew should cry, should weep on this day. Now look at this. Kasav HaTanya. It's written in the Sefer Tanya. Now this is not the Bal HaTanya. This is an earlier source. B'yoyim HaShishi, on Friday, Parshas Chukas. Erev Shabbos Kodesh Parshas Chukas. Nohagu Yechidim Lesanos. Individuals fast. Shaba'oisai hayoim, because on that day nisrifu chaf kroinos malayim svarim b'tzarfas. 20 wagon loads of handwritten manuscripts were burnt in France. So ask the Tanya, ask the Magen Avram, since when do you fast on a day of the week? In Judaism, you never commemorate something by the day of the week. You always commemorate by the day of the month. Right? Chaf Hey Kislev, Tas Vav Nisan, Tes Vav Tishrei, Yud Tishrei. There is nothing in Kol HaTorah Kula that goes by the day of the week. So why all of a sudden do we make this fast day on Erev Shabbos Parshas Chukas? We don't say let's fast on this and this day of the month. The Rishonim in those times, they asked Shamayim through a dream, and they were told, Noida Lohem, they were told, Sheyoim HaParsha Goyrem, that what caused the tragedy was the fact that that week they learned the Parsha of Chukas. What is the targum on the words Zois Chukas HaTorah? Da Gezeras Oiraisa. This is a decree of the Torah. In other words, they didn't know why this was happening. So they asked the Shelas Chaloim, they asked through a dream, and they were shown the three words of Targum Unklos, Da Gezeras Oiraisa. This is the decree of the Torah. Right? Zois Chukas HaTorah Metargaminon, Da Gezeras Oiraisa. Says the Magen Avraham, you know why we fast on Friday when we normally fast the day of the month, and here we're fasting the day of the week? Because the fact that that Friday is the Friday of the week that we lane in the Torah, Zois Chukas HaTorah, it makes it that that day is a day of punishment. Why? Because not just where something is written in the Torah and how something is written in the Torah does that create the reality, but when we lane something, that affects the day. So for example, somehow we don't know, this week we're laning Parshas Vayeitzey. What we're laning in the Chumash will affect and create what happens to us during that week. That's what the Magen Avraham is saying.
This week or next week?
This
week.
Well, this week with Vayeitzey, whatever's happening to us this week is created by Vayeitzey.
Which day? Tuesday.
What? Where's the bris? Not sure yet. Still have a few days to get the drasha together, right? But so Rabbi says, so what the Magen Avraham is saying, not only the fact that Torah doesn't write that Yaakov learned means we don't see him learning. Not only the fact that Torah removes the open space, does that make it that it's sealed up? When of when we learn something creates the reality for that time. And perhaps we could use this to explain one last thing, Rabbi Say. The beginning of last week's Parsha, it says, Eila Toldois Yitzchak ben. Right? It's the first pasuk. This you should know, right? Eila Toldois Yitzchak ben Avraham. Avraham. So there's one question. Once we got the point that Eila Toldois Yitzchak ben Avraham, we're good. I'm good. I got that already. That Avraham Holedas Yitzchak. I could figure that out. Right? If 1 + 1 = 2, then if you flip around the numbers, 1 + 1 is still equals 2. Right? If 1 + 2 = 3, 2 + 1 also equals 3. Well, what exactly? Eila told Yitzchak ben Avraham, Avraham Holedas Yitzchak. So Rashi says like this. Rashi says, why would the Torah repeat after Yitzchak's the son of Avraham, that Avraham gave birth to Yitzchak? Because the late Sanei Hadar, the mockers, said, come on, Avraham, you can't have a kid. This kid must come from Avimelech. All of a sudden, for 90 years you're together, and then Avimelech takes Sarah, and then all of a sudden Sarah's having a baby. Where do you think the kid comes from? So what did the Rebbeinu Shalom do? He made Yitzchak's face similar to Avraham. Sar Klaster Panav, so Yitzchak Doimel Avraham. Ve'eidu Akol Avraham Heledas Yitzchak. So we think, right, in other words, it says, these are the descendants of Yitzchak, the son of Avraham. But how do we really know that Yitzchak comes from Avraham? Avraham Hoiledas Yitzchak, Hashem made Yitzchak's face look like Avraham. So I believe that when the Torah says Avraham Hoiledas Yitzchak, the Torah is not just reporting to you, by the way, you know what Hashem did? Hashem made Yitzchak's face look like Avraham so that everyone would know Avraham Hoiledas Yitzchak. Just the other way around. Eile Toldois Yitzchak ben Avraham. But the fact that the Torah then goes ahead and writes the words Avraham Hoiledas Yitzchak, that was the surgeon's architectural plans to be able to make that Yitzchak's face looked exactly like Avraham. In other words, with what did Hashem make Yitzchak look like Avraham? By writing the words in the Torah, Avraham Hoiledas Yitzchak. Through that, Hashem created the reality that Yitzchak's face looked like Avraham. This is a very lofty, a very yesod, a very important yesod, that the Rebbeinu Shalom uses the Torah to make the reality of history, the reality of creation, the reality of reality. And what we think is the real thing, the Torah is what creates reality.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.